Okay, so you are 3.1k Widowmaker
Uh,
main? Yes?
yeah.
Uh,
Sorry, my mic cut out.
yeah, yeah. And is this from comp, from scrim, this VOD?
This is the one from
Comp,
the other one
and
is from
okay. And then what do you feel like your biggest issue is? Like what's holding you back from climbing
inconsistency.
with your aim?
Yeah,
So not
especially in
a,
competitive.
sorry?
Especially in competitive. I feel like there's a huge gap between my skill in competitive and in scrims.
What do you think is better, scrim or competitive?
Scrim by far.
You think scrim is far worse?
No better. I play
Oh.
way better in scrims.
Why do you
Like
think that is?
maybe trust, something like that. Trust my team a bit more,
Okay.
and feel like maybe I have some like feel like I gotta perform.
Perform in
But
comp?
no, in scrims. So
Ah,
like I gotta perform, so maybe I play it better.
okay.
Maybe something like a mindset or something.
Mm-hmm. So, whenever you play ranked, like ladder games, do you join voice
Mhm.
chat normally?
Yeah,
You do.
all the time. Yeah.
It is 100% okay for DPS players, especially Widowmaker players, to not join voice chat, especially if you're trying to get yourself into the right mentality, okay? So we'll watch, we'll see. But a lot of times it's a confidence issue, which means not per- consciously aiming, but just trusting your unconscious ability to aim, right? Working your way to that point is harder whenever you're in voice chat. So once you get your confidence in your aim, then you can go to voice chat and you don't have to spend your time thinking about your aim while having your teammates talking as like a distraction, and then you talking to your teammates, which is even more a distraction, instead of focusing on your gameplay and your aim and developing it into what it needs to be. Okay?
Yeah.
That's just for voice chat and like ranked. And then, yes, as far as scrims go, feeling like you need to perform is important. You should go into every comp game with the same mentality that you are going to hard carry. That's what you want to think that you are going to do, and have confidence in yourself to hard carry as you approach every game. It is also advised that you take notes during the 2 hours, okay?
Hold. Let me open Notepad real.
Attackers incoming in 30 seconds.
Do you think you ever adjust your playstyle based off the composition your team is running?
Um. Yes. I think.
So in this comp, for example, you have two pretty solo independent like tanks who don't necessarily need that much support or peel, and then you have a Doomfist who is going to most likely be doing his own thing as well, right? So there's not much team that you need to play with. So you should be playing pretty defensive because there's not much team you're playing with, so you can't take an aggressive position. And if you're playing more defensive, then that'll allow Mercy to be able to fly to you and res you. So then you're giving her a way out, since once again your team won't be playing too much together, right?
Yeah.
You are advised to move behind my barrier.
I'm interested to see the first position you take.
My entire my video player.
Oh, so you didn't take a first position?
3.
No. Like my video right now.
Oh,
Uh,
what
I'm
is it?
stuck on 26.
Two.
Any better?
Should I try
5,
sync it with everyone else?
Yeah, press that. I'm at 45.
I'm still. Let me just aiming at the phone door.
Okay, then restart.
4,
Syncing.
Refresh.
Hit that F. Okay, try and click. I'm just
Hmm?
try and click play.
5, 4,
There you go. Now it's
3,
You're at 47 with me?
Yep.
Okay. Is this the position you normally take right here?
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay. If you're gonna play here, you want to be back, head peeking the stairs. Okay? The stairs that are right behind you. You either want to be playing there, that way you have. You're one harder to see, so this Widow, assuming there's a Widow here, could have seen you up here and know exactly where you are and already get her crosshair set on your head. And then versus the stairs where you could hide, and then like after the time starts and you can peek. There's also bushes down here where you can crouch and have a really good line of sight on spawn door. And then there's of course the statue that you can just kind of play around there.
I sometimes also peek in the hotel through some of the fences.
Like
sometimes.
here through there.
Yeah.
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 The important part is also make sure you're just somewhere where your Mercy can res, right? Or if you're in voice chat, tell your Mercy to come up here and damage boost you for the first shot. That way if you get picked, she's already in this hallway and can immediately res you.
1. Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
Peeking like that actually doesn't do anything for you,
Defend
honestly. It just makes it harder for you to aim.
2, 1.
Right? If there was another Widow, your head hitbox is like this, and it's moving over like this, back and forth, right? So if she's aiming anywhere in this circle, she's still gonna headshot you, right? So like
3,
when your head's moving,
1.
you still have line of sight, which means your head hitbox is not moving. So if she aimed her crosshair right here, it'd kill you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Attackers incoming. Defend objective A.
You must like me.
Let me go back and look closer at your aiming.
Defend objective A.
You must like me.
Okay, a little bit of target focus issue. First thing is you see a Mercy through walls and she's by herself. You see the truck separating her. She's eventually going to have to peek this angle, right? Unless she rotates around the bus, which she doesn't necessarily know where you are. So you should keep your crosshair ready for this Mercy to peek, okay? Instead, you switch your crosshair to a tank that you cannot kill, right? So you miss out on the opportunity of having your crosshair already placed where the Mercy's going to peek and being able to get a pick that way because you have walls on her.
Me.
Right? So
I don't
right...
have walls.
Huh?
I don't have walls.
Oh, it's just a replay? Okay. Yeah, I thought... Okay. My bad then. I'm a little bit unfamiliar with the replay system. Haven't had time to play around with it.
Yeah.
And I assumed you might have just gotten a fat poison. Do you play a lot of Widow FFA or aim trainers?
I play some FFA.
FFA?
Yes.
Do you ever play
Once in a while, I'll play Aim Hero.
Aim Hero? But do you ever use Kovacs?
I used it when I didn't really have a. I didn't really like it that much. I didn't get how to use it.
Because the issue I see already with your aim, I wish we could just like slow it down. Can you? I don't think so. Playback speed, yes. Okay. It won't let me. Oh. Okay, so if we look at your aim, ignore the mercy. I'll just mute the audio for now. So whenever Orisa gets pulled, right, she's moving like this. Okay, and watch your crosshair placement. Whenever you go for the flick, you stop at the foot instead of where she's going to be, right? You want to place your crosshair and then follow up with her, right? So basically, if she's moving like this and your crosshair is here, you move your crosshair to be right here, and then as Orisa continues to move upwards, right, you shift your crosshair from here, and then as she starts to slow down, you can predict where the peak of her movement's going to be, and you can place your crosshair there. And then whenever she goes up and stops, there's that time, and then she starts to come down, right? So you have the biggest window of time for you to take a shot and get the headshot would be placing your crosshair and waiting for her to come up, and then predicting the arc of her jump. And the reason why I asked if you play Widow FFA or Aim Hero specifically is because those methods of practicing your aim are just on like straight ahead targets, right? So you don't have a target moving towards you like this, or necessarily going straight up, and you just have these stationary targets, or Widow, where she moves and then she's standing still in this position, and you just flick on a stationary target. So whenever a target's moving, that's a completely different like aim style, which means you have to predict movement and aim where they're going to be, and then aim there. So you see on the Orisa, like, you didn't do that at all. You stopped at the feet, and then you waited for her to start coming down, and then you tried to time it. Right? So that's like right, just it's so much harder because you have to get basically your head hitbox. You have this much time to take the shot, which is like 7 frames. Okay?
Yeah.
And then with the Doomfist again, right? He's moving this way. Watch your crosshair. You're trailing him. You're behind him, chasing after him, right? So whenever he moves from here to here, your crosshair is going to move from here to here, right? And so if his head is here, it moves from point A to point B, that means your crosshair is always going to be behind it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's why, right here, while you're aiming against the Doomfist, you not once did your crosshair go in front of him in a position where you had the opportunity to get a headshot, and you almost missed the body shot. Or you did miss the body shot. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's that. So the main reason, if you have Kovacs is, this is what I've learned about Kovacs, is like, it's amazing for practicing, because it has ball mechanics, so basically the ball will just bounce and then move and then bounce off a wall. So basically, if you have to track the movement and predict that's going to be here, predict where it's going to bounce, not necessarily where it's going to bounce, but you want to predict these spots where it's at that peak of its arc and it's easiest to predict and hit that shot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So Kovacs, because it has small moving balls, or fast moving balls at long range that are small in size, it does force you to really train this exercise, which would mean that you place your crosshair here and then wait for the Doomfist to move into it, and then you'd shoot. Changing playback speed again. Good rotation.
Please move behind the barrier.
You hear the Sombras, all the Sombras machine gun fire, but you never place your poison mine to your left to watch for her flank. Whenever you hear this Doomfist, punching below you, just throw poison like over here, so that if it hits him, it helps your teammates deal with them, right? You can even assist with machine gun fire, but you're not really doing anything. You are super tunnel visioned on the shield. For the past 10 seconds, you've just been shooting at the shield. Yeah? You body shot the Zen, then you switch to the Mercy and take 2 shots on the Mercy. So...
Heroes never die. The battle continues.
No one can hide from my sight.
Let's get you healed up.
Since you have Infrasight up, and they are playing behind the choke, after you body shot that Mercy, you should have gone for a jump shot to finish her off. Because if you got that kill, then it would have taken another 10 seconds off their clock. And that would have been 10 seconds where they have Zen's total healing, right? They're not pushing in, so why'd you take a more defensive position whenever you had the advantage? And you even had a pick, so... That's a Monka shake, dude. Okay, so with flankers like this, you still here? You good?
Yeah.
With flankers like this, I mean, you already had a shot charged, so you let go. You always want to try to hit the first shot as they walk through a choke, and then if you miss it, immediately just get out. Right. If you miss that first shot, your chances of winning this 1v1 are drastically increased. That's why it was such a big mistake for you to switch off of your fully charged shot and then switch to machine gun fire. Right? And then right here, whenever you are machine gun fire, you should just dip and get out this way. Just drop down with your team. Like, he's gonna take it. Your poison mine, in the moment, it was like, okay, because you didn't understand where it was. But then you never switched its positioning. So, I mean, it was just completely invaluable to you there.
Cease. This is not your time.
That was good.
Just
Ooh.
You're way now, by the way.
What?
You're quite a on me. Or it was a, I think now. 340, yeah.
340, yeah.
You
Those are good shots. That was all you could do.
take some time. And it's
You're still cutting in and out on Discord.
let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm just trying to move my mic a bit closer, I guess. There you go.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
Good to continue. Here we go.
Apagando las luces.
Okay, so now is normally the time whenever you should switch off Widow for a couple reasons. The biggest one being they have a shield, a big Orisa shield, right? That their whole team is playing behind. You got Orisa, you got Hog, right? The other two people who you can on the enemy team. Sombra, you can't kill her because she's invisible, right? Then
Yeah.
Doom, who is almost impossible to one-shot headshot because he always has shields, and then he's highly mobile. His head hitbox is extremely small, and generally there's not much a Widow can do to kill him besides assist the team killing him with damage, right? And your team comp is not suited at all to deal with the Doomfist or the Sombra. So because you're hard shut down by 4 of the 6 of their enemy team and your team's not doing anything to counter their comp, this is where you need to switch and do something about it. The second reason is because of the way Second Point King's Row works. Every sightline you have can be completely covered by one Orisa shield. And then it's just walls like this, right? So it's not like you can rotate and just get another angle, because that just puts you out of the fight completely. And then you're hard committed to this position, which is in their back line, where their Doomfist or Sombra can easily punish you. Yeah? So because of those 2 reasons, this is why you need to switch. If this was like Eichenwald and they were running this comp, then it would be amazing for Widow because you could constantly flank and get sightlines on the Zen and Mercy and then shoot Orisa Hog in the backs because there's so much space in sightlines, right?
I see.
Guinea pigs. Helden sterben nicht.
Into the iris.
I want to look at your aim again. Did you even shoot? Yeah, you did.
Helden sterben nicht.
Your shots were actually pretty accurate. I was wondering if it would you'd be overly flicking due to panic or under flicking. What's your sense, by the way?
I use 4.2 in game with 800 DPI and a 40 scope.
Okay, so your sense is more or less average, more on the low side. A lot more on the low
Into the
side.
iris.
I arm aim, so
Huh?
I arm aim, so
Yeah. Just forget the Mercy, right?
yeah.
Like, you could be doing so much damage helping your team focus down targets.
Team up for
Even Owl Widows, I think I was watching Shinkai, and DM, who's the best Widow in the world, just looked at the Mercy, didn't even take one shot, just switched back down. It's just not worth it to try.
Yeah.
cease your resistance.
No one.
Meteor strike.
Up the tempo. Oh, turn it up.
I was just taking mental note of something about your aim, trying to identify problems.
Hey there. Hey there.
That was actually pretty unlucky, dude. You were right on her.
Time to heal up.
I'm thinking. Second. Okay.
I need healing.
Nice shot.
Did that hurt?
Attaboy. It was worth. That was good. That should have won your team-to-team fight, but apparently not. Oh, they got EMP, that's why.
30 seconds
Yeah, I was about to say, once you see that Widow, just don't even challenge it, because if you die now, then the next fight will start before you get back. And if you pick her now, you don't get any value.
I was just thinking to get into a good position for the cap, so I'm ready for them to push in.
Mm-hmm. And this is a super early use of infrasites because you know the payload's here. Nobody in your team is ready to like help get value off this fight. And you mostly want to use your infrasite whenever the Sombra is like prepared to start the team's engagement. Okay? So the cart gets to here. Your Orisa shield's here, their Orisa shield's here, and the fight is about to start. That's when you want to use your infrasites because then it gives your team, oh, Doomfist is here, Sombra is actually like behind us here, and then our Hammond has an idea of where he can play, what he can do. Our Moira knows what to watch out for, you know what to watch out for, and our Orisa can, assuming we had a hog, could like pull hook people.
No one can hide from my sight.
So, yeah, you've gotten no value with this infrasight.
Cease your resistance. Team up for special attack.
I need healing.
Sie sterben nicht.
Nice shot. How much time do you spend practicing playing a day? On average.
Like just straight up practice or just playing in general?
More so like straight up practice. On playtime on Widow, let's say. Or aim practice. Whether it's like practice range, aim hero, whatever.
I'd say like 1.5 to 2 hours
A day?
sometimes. Not every day. Just,
On the days that you do play, it's like 1.5, 2 hours.
the days I feel like I want to practice, maybe.
Okay.
Which is like maybe say 4 to 5 times a week. And then I spend a lot of time just headshots only servers, aim trainer, some quick play,
So
maybe just
whether
to practice.
whether it be free for all, headshot servers, aim hero, it's about 2 hours a day for 5 day a week, you said?
Yes, something like that.
Okay. So I'll actually finish this VOD now and talk about it.
Der Kampf ist noch nicht vorbei.
Personne n'échappe à mon regard.
60 seconds.
You're destroying that widow now, holy crap.
For some reason, I tend to do that, but I think that's because of the hedges only servers.
You should have cut that Orisa, did you see? Whenever you went for your grapple. She was 100% free and you left her. Like, who else are you trying to aim at? There's nobody on your screen, so just focus and look for a shot on the people you can shoot at. Commit to targets that you can kill, right? The first point, you body shot Zen, then switch to Mercy, you headshot Orisa, then you switch to, I believe, Hog, and shot Hog 3 times, right? So you're just switching targets a lot instead of committing to getting kills, because if you're just hitting targets, body shot, and then they go behind a shield, then you switch, or they go behind a corner, a lot of times lower ranked players will get body shot, go behind the corner, and then before they're above 120, they'll peek, And so if you commit to watching that corner through crosshair, and then whenever they peek, let's say they're 119, right? And then you just get the other body shot, you one-shot them. Because their health is regenerating, or they're getting healed, they think they're safe, so they just walk out. And you are never giving yourself the opportunity to get those kills.
Be alert. 30 seconds remaining.
Incoming.
No way we're gonna lose this. Hang on.
Helden sterben nicht.
10 seconds.
Current combat situation indicates high probability of victory.
Oh, let's break it. Damn!
No one can hide.
Enemies
Double
Apagando las luces.
You had really good target focus, and you were getting a lot of good kills that fight. You got really good value. That was really good from you, the last fight. And your positioning overall is actually pretty good. You played fairly defensive, and you never really over-aggressed. The biggest issues I saw, as far as like positioning ability management goes, was you didn't use your grapple hook for much offensive utility. There's a lot of times that you never reloaded when you should have. If you're like rotating positions, you always need to like get a reload in, so that whenever you do peek with your gun, you're gonna actually have a good position to do DPS.
Yeah.
And then also, you didn't have your poison mine uptime very high. There was only certain situations where you knew you needed to use your poison mine where you used it, and you should almost always have it up as like an insurance policy, right?
Okay.
You should, every time you go to a new position, you should get your Widow Mine somewhere, right? So if you go super defensive, you just throw it in to get walls, to offensive pressure. But anytime you're like here, you want it either down here or watching your back up here, you know, whatever.
3, 2, 1. Attack commencing. Capture objective A.
heal me.
Let's get started.
I would suggest you get out of the habit of going up top right there. Everybody who plays Overwatch knows Widowmakers go high ground. We're not going to peek high ground unless we're Widowmaker. We're going to Sonic the top. We're going to play shields. We're going to spam the top because we can't see the bottom door. So just go out the right door and then just immediately grapple up here. Or grapple on the top left up here. That's for like if you want a really good line of sight like over shield. If their shield's placed up here, you should go up here. But if they're playing a little bit more back, go up here so that you can get line of sight past the shield where the wall is, you know. And then also it's okay to just play on the ground. But everybody thinks you have to go up here if you're Widowmaker because you get line of sight. But in reality, you get so much less because everybody knows about it and everybody plays around it.
Yeah.
3,
Same goes for Junkertown, right? The right door in Junkertown immediately puts you on high ground, and it immediately gives you line of sight of their defensive high ground, and it gives you more angles than going up top does. So just
Yeah.
2, 1. Attack commencing. Capture objective A.
Heal me.
Let's get started.
An expedient solution.
that was good. So you're 2 down now. Making a long rotation, you need it to pay off. And this is a really good position for Widow if your team is taking space and aggressing onto the point. Which they did make space, and hopefully you kill this Harissa. Good rotation from you. Good job killing the Sombra. And then you grapple to high ground. And you didn't just grapple to high ground, you also went for a jump shot. If they had a Widow, you shouldn't do that, but they didn't, so you were fine. But yeah, so far you're playing good. Nice shots. Mercy.
Escort the payload.
I'm a big fan again.
Sorry?
I'm a big fan again. Hold up. Okay, we're ready to go.
11-11.
Yep.
What they say, a payload in motion stays in motion.
Rien ne peut plus m'arrêter.
Perfect synchronization.
No one can hide from my sight. Heal me.
Know that. The power of destruction. Move the payload.
Damn.
Apagando las luces.
This position's fairly bad because you're here to here, close range, and the angle that you're shooting down on requires you to go to the very edge and shoot practically straight down, which is good for players like Soldier and Kree, but for Widow, whenever you have to take individual flicks on targets that are, you know, basically if you're looking straight ahead and there's somebody here, their head moves on a like an x-axis, right? And it kind of varies between here if they jump, between here if they crouch. So you're aiming like this. You're aiming in this area, right? But if you're looking straight down somebody's head, in one step, they can like travel any of these distances. So your flick, if they take one step, you have to go have this like radius of where you're comfortable flicking, and that's reactionary to their movement. So basically they can move in infinite directions instead of the 1 to 2. Yeah?
Yeah.
So if you're like a Soldier or a Kree, being able to take those individual shots means a higher headshot percentage, which ultimately means higher DPS. But for Widow, whenever you have to take that one shot based off the direction they're traveling, it's best if you go on a more looking straight ahead where you can kind of predict their movement a little bit more.
Yeah.
My field ready.
Heal me.
This is gonna make you feel better.
I need healing.
Widowmaker doesn't need healing. Your team's fighting, get in a fight. If their team wants to, I take that back. Normally, as Widow, you should just forget it, go take a long line of sight, and just help with your damage, right? And then if their hog wants to push up just to kill you, then that's taking pressure off the rest of your team because hog's coming to kill you and not like your team, right? That's more valuable than taking the time to get a health back. Normally that's true, but because of their team composition with the Sombra, being able to know where you are and kill you in the situation, and then also 1, 2, 3 ranged characters who could pretty easily kill you, and then damage orbs, yeah, it's pretty much needed for you to get this health back. So that's why I took it back. Don't do it. Don't challenge him.
No one can hide from my
Don't be the Widow who takes a 1v1 on a Roadhog who hadn't used his hook initially, probably has his self-heal, is playing on a mega health pack, and your whole team's still alive. So you have your team's like soft resetting, they're just regrouping, they're gonna push back in. Don't be that guy that pushes in, takes a point blank 1v1 against Roadhog, and then dies, and it's not there for your team the next fight.
I am personally seeing the field.
Against Moira Coalescence, she moves so fast and she obscures your sight. It is extremely difficult to hit her at any range, but being that close, it's harder than hitting like a Valkyrie Mercy. Honestly. Yeah. So just get out, like it's not worth taking that fight. Unlucky. Against a Sombra like that, you should just stay scoped and try to get the headshot, because she is going to have more close range DPS than you. She can shoot for longer and do more damage. And, I mean, especially once she comes from out of being invisible. What's that called? When it's not translocate. I don't know what it's called.
Uncloak?
Yeah. Whenever she decloaks, she's gonna get the first shots on you. She's gonna be behind you, probably shooting you directly in the head if you're Widow. And your only chance of survival is doing a 180 headshot. Assuming you like win the 1v1. But if you're like with your team, yeah, just shoot, because then you can deny hacks and you can get PO from a support and then force her out.
Immortality field destroyed. On me.
Your whole team's dead. Just go back up to the bridge, place a poison on the left side, hold the sight line on like this area, and then control that space while your team regroups, and then I Sombra the high ground, letting her farm more EMP. That's like the most value you can get right now, instead of pushing out trying to take a 1v6. Virtue, what's up? Yeah, you should play this game on stream, my guy. That'd be funny.
Incoming.
Nah, that was a nice shot. You're overthinking it. Look at how long you aim at the Zen. This, like, you've done this multiple times, but this Zen is a really bad example, so I'll just slow it down. And you said you have your inconsistency, yeah? Whenever you're playing with your team, you obviously have more, like, time, because they are supporting you and controlling space for you, so you don't really have to worry about flankers. But, like, this is where, one, your aim, and two, the pressure. There's no pressure at all because you've made a successful flank. There's no pressure. They have no idea you're there. So you feel like you should take all the time you want and wait for this end to magically stand still and let you headshot him. But in reality, it's just like any other situation. The Sombra just a second ago, you hit a nice shot on. The reason why you hit that shot is because you peeked out, you stopped, you aimed at her mid-chest, and you tracked her moving to the right. Sombra was here, right? She was shooting your teammate, so you're safe. You aimed here, you followed her, and then you made the flick up to her head. That's what you did against the Sombra, okay? You took about 600 milliseconds, approximately, to calculate and like hit your shot, which is a little bit below average, but it's still like comfortable. What you do against a Zen, right here, is, I'll show you. So right here, he's standing perfectly still, he's reloading. You've peeked, you've placed your crosshair, you're at 87 charge, flick from point A to point B, and he's dead. Instead, you correct your crosshair to go to where he was, and now you have your second opportunity to flick. He's taken one step forward in this direction, so you know where he's going, you know where he is, and just make this flick, right? And so watch, you try to correct again, and now you're in front of him, instead of just flicking, right? So now you're uncomfortable because he's, we'll watch it back one more time, but now you're uncomfortable with taking this shot because what it looks like is he's here, I'm going to hit him. Oh, wait, now he's here. Okay, I'm going to go to his head. Now he's here, right? So it looks like he's dodging your bullets. But in reality, you're not even giving yourself a chance to hit the shot because you're making it too easy on yourself instead of trusting your aim. So watch this a full time again. Right? It's small, but like there's 3 good opportunities to like hit the flick. The first one is the best. And then it just gets worse, dude. Right? He moved from here in a straight line to here, then a straight line to here. And all 3 times you traced him a second behind.
Let them out. The immortality field.
You did again with the Sombra. Could you tell?
Not really.
Watch it again. I'll go into this more in depth at the end of this. I have an example.
Yeah.
I'll run down through it. But yeah, there's some big problems with like your mentality with aiming, and then also how you practice. Sombra is standing still.
Not yet. 60
No one can
seconds
hide
remaining.
from my sight.
The payload has reached the checkpoint.
My pause again.
Huh?
Yeah, just pause real quick.
Okay.
I gotta resync. Okay, I'm ready.
Apagando las luces.
Good shot.
Let them out.
You should take this window position because it's not that much distance between your current position, which means you'll have the same amount of pressure, but then it would also open up this sight line for you, which you don't currently have, and you only have between the doorway. So you are aiming between those 2 spots, right? The only spaces on your screen where you're allowed to hit people is that, right? And you can't really take this position yet because they had like Sombra Hog playing here and here. But then that's why right here, or even going back here to get on either side of the cart would be ideal.
Get in the immortality field.
No one can hide from my sight.
I thought you needed
Just going back to the payload example just a second ago. Whenever you get in this situation where you don't have a real good line of sight, well, this Moira was fine, but we'll see in a second. Okay, right here. Whenever there's nothing really going on, you don't really have anybody shoot, just completely stop and spend 2 seconds. That's all you need, 2 seconds to think. Option 1, option 2, option 3. Where should I go? What should I do? Like, what what's ideal, right? Option 4 would just be like pushing up, right? Spend 2 seconds just to be like, okay, I'm not getting any value to my current position. What should I go? Where should I do? Like, where should I go? What should I do? Okay. So there was a good example of team fight that really give a good example of your aim and the issues you have with it. So this, okay, we'll actually start it here. So the biggest issues I see in your aim. The biggest one, the absolute biggest issue, is you only know how to hit a flick of this distance on your screen. Okay? So if Arissa's here, your crosshair needs to be here, and you need to hit this flick, otherwise you have no chance of hitting the shot. Okay? About 90% of the shots you've taken this VOD are that distance. You will intentionally set your crosshair here, watch Arissa move, and make the shot harder for yourself just to have that flick. Okay? So,
I see.
and the reason for that is because that's the Widow headshot flick. Right? If you're point blank, like, let's pretend this Doomfist is the Widow. He jumps right here. You're aiming at the head. You wait for him to jump, and then you flick from point A to point B. It's that same distance. Okay? This is why there's so many Platinum Diamond Widows who have incredibly good flicks, is for this reason. They just hit the same shot over and over and over again, which is not well-rounded aim, which means you are very limited to the situations where you can hit your shots and how consistent you can be. So, watch how you set your crosshair. Okay, well, if they're in air, you try to time them on the way down. That's the other thing, which we already talked about. See what you did against the Mercy? You set your crosshair here, and you don't move it. And then you just wait for your charge to go up, and then you take a flick. And you shot nowhere close to them. Okay? Which brings me to my second point. You don't look... Like, you need to consciously hard focus on the headshot of the head hitbox of your target. Okay? So what this means is, look at the Orisa from a second before. So Orisa, a ginormous target, right? You completely whiff, and the reason why is because you weren't looking at her. Okay? So what I mean by this is, I assume you look at think you're looking at targets, but do you look at your crosshair?
Yeah, sometimes, or most of the times, I think.
Okay.
It's really hard to think about it.
Yeah.
Without,
Right.
Yeah.
So, it kind of shows the problem. So what it looks like you were doing, it's possible you're looking at your crosshair, but you miss shots, and you don't even attempt shots if you were looking at your crosshair that you should attempt. Like this one, if you were looking at your crosshair right now, you'd be like, oh, what am I looking at? There's nobody there for me to shoot. Okay? But what you need to do is... So whenever you aim, this is just general concept of aiming. You are not putting your crosshair on Arissa's head. You are putting Arissa's head in the center of your screen. Okay? Right here. If I went into practice range and turned my crosshair off, I could hit every single headshot with a flick, even with my crosshair off. Okay? And that's not practice. Don't turn your crosshair off to practice. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, you can show yourself this is kind of where you struggle, and if you do look at your crosshair, just go into practice range, turn your crosshair off, and see how you do. Because the only thing the crosshair is supposed to do is have a peripheral reference. So if your eyes are looking here, okay? Like right now, with your eyes, look at the circle on the screen, okay? In the corner of your eye, you can see your crosshair, okay? And then in your peripheral vision, you can gauge this distance, okay? So what you want to do is you want to look at the Orisa head, really focus on it. And then this example is really good because your arm, are you right-handed? You play with your right arm?
Yeah, I'm right-handed.
Yeah, so
Right-handed.
yes. So what you're doing with this specific shot is your eyes are looking at the Orisa, and your right arm, which is to the right of you, extended out towards your mouse, is coming up to meet your eyes. Okay? You're bringing your hand to your face in your head in game. That's kind of weird to think about and say. But what I'm trying to say is you're focused on the Orisa head. This is all you want to be looking at. Nothing else on the screen matters. You're just looking at the Orisa head, okay? And you make this movement with your mouse. Okay? That's it. Instead, what you tend to do, is you just kind of seem to look in general in this area of space. Okay? So, with the Orisa example, you're looking in this area of space, and you know your crosshair's here, and Orisa's kind of here. So I'm going to shoot. But you have time in this situation to react to the Orisa who gets booped out of that space. But because the area where you're looking is so large, right, that it's this whole circle is where you're focused. Because it's so large, it means it's more time for your brain to absorb all the information that you're focused on and retain the information enough to make a decision about where you flick and when you shoot. So what you want to do is train your brain to look at only this, right? And then the second Orisa's moving this way, you can predict the head's going to be here and when it's going to be there because you're only looking here, right? And then you make this flick at the correct time. So we'll go back a second. If you are looking in general, like in the middle of your circle, I'll draw a better circle. It's not the greatest. But this is just kind of where you're focused, right? Orisa's there and then she gets booped. And it's not a good reaction. But if you were looking specifically at the Orisa's head, right? See, if you're looking here instead of at her head, so see where your crosshair is? It's nowhere precise on the Orisa's hitbox. If you're still looking, do you see the movement of the circle? That if you were just focused on her head, your brain would recognize that this great of a movement from here to here, that's a big distance on your screen. If you were only looking at the head, your brain would realize, hey, I can't shoot because she's nowhere close to here anymore. If I'm focused on that spot, it's gone. So then you all of a sudden, your focus, you zoom back out, and then you relocate on the head. And then you realize my crosshair's here, and then you make this shot instead of just shooting in the same place. And this is a skill that is quite fairly practicable in Widow Headshot. Okay? So Sombra again. It was just she's over here in the bottom left of my screen somewhere, so I'm just going to make a big flick in that direction and hope it hits. A lot of your shots look like this. And so this team fight, the one right here, was a really good example in general of how you aim, and you did really, really well this team fight. This is the best team fight you had the whole VOD. And so, there's one specific shot I want to look at. Yeah, I think it was that one. With the hog. No, it wasn't that one. Your aim was definitely better. But you do this weird movement after you take your shots. Which what that says to me is you are not making A to B movements with your aim. Okay? You're not recognizing your crosshair's positioning and moving it to take a shot. Or recognizing that A and B are already in the same place. Okay? So, I said, always needing to make the decision to flick. If you play Aim Hero and Widow FFA always to practice, that's all you do, and have you gone for any? You went for one hook shot, okay? Which means, once again, you're not practicing small smooth mouth movements at all. So, every time you take a shot, every time you left click, there needs to be a movement before you shoot in your brain, because every time you shoot, you always do a movement before it. Whenever you're practicing real FFA, you make a movement before you shoot with your mouse, no matter how small or big. So with this hog example, point A and point B are the same place. You don't move to hit this shot. But then because you click, then you feel the need to just do something, because every time you shoot, you always make a movement. With this mentality leads to inconsistency, because targets, you need to predict where point A and point B are, right? So you can take a shot. But if you always feel the need to move and your physical muscles are not comfortable with making this movement, then your brain, or not your brain, but your muscles tend to do something like this, right? To make yourself feel like your shot is correct. So watch what you do with the hog. Next shot. Headshot, and then you flick up that way. You shot, and then you flicked. Did you see it?
Yeah.
You do it again with the Orisa right here. See how big that was? So, Wood FFA, bad. It's very, very bad if that's all you do, because it leads to stuff like this. Once again, you need well-rounded aim. If this is somebody's body, you always place your crosshair either here or here and do this flick. That's all you ever do. Okay? You seem to prefer this one more. The right to top left. The other thing you do, so whenever you're playing Aim Hero, it's mostly left and right is where you're practicing aiming. And then if there's like a target here, your crosshair's here, an Aim Hero, there's also a lot of these. Okay, which seems to be maybe more likely what you do. But with FFA, every time they jump midair, you always make that flick to hit them while they're in midair. That's always what you do in Wood FFA. So, that's the problem with your aim. You go into practice range, and let's say this is someone's head. Place your crosshair right here and practice flicking straight down. Place your crosshair right here and practice flicking straight up. Place your crosshair directly horizontal and flick in a straight line, right? It forces your muscles to do something you've never practiced before, which is go straight across. And then whenever you get in situations where somebody's movement patterns look like this, and you have your crosshair placed here at the start because you're trailing them, and from point A to point B is like this, then you won't go up here and then have to correct and make these weird movements like you do with the Zenyatta, because you're trying to hit these flicks that you're used to hitting. Okay? Try to remember. What else did I have? Oh yeah. So yeah, with Kovacs, the ball trainer, you have a ball and it bounces, kind of a weird arc, right? It's constantly moving, constantly changing directions. It's going here to here to here, down, 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 right? It changes directions constantly. That means that there's no hard A to B to B to B to B to B to B. Your flick is never gonna be a straight line. I mean, it will be, but what I'm saying is, there's no. It's not like linear movement where someone steps back and forth. There's not that end spot where there's that gap of time, right? There's an arc where the ball slows down the most, and that's where it's most ideal to hit the shot. But in order to time that arc, it forces you with your crosshair to follow the path. You're following it as it moves, and then once it gets to here, then this is like the flick zone. Between this time, you have your crosshair here, and the ball is somewhere in this position. That's whenever you make that flick, right? So it forces you to make. I'll do it with my hand right now so you see. Okay, pretend this is my crosshair, and this is a ball, and it makes this movement. Okay, with my crosshair, this is what I would do: follow it, and then like kind of flick at the spot where it kind of slows down at the peak of the arc. Okay, you want to follow it. In your brain, you'll kind of calculate how the ball is moving and where it's gonna be easiest for me to hit the shot with the most accuracy, and then you make that one correction, which is this, to hit that shot. And as you can see, like, it's not that much, like, it's not a big difference, but in your head you would not trace it, which gives you no feel for how the ball is moving, and then just flick, which would result in this arc. You're either flicking here, having your crosshair stop here, or you're here, above or below. And the head is specifically this tiny little spot, which if you're moving your crosshair this way and instead flick like this, it's much, much easier because you're flicking along the line instead of across it. Okay?
Yeah.
So, you know, the line with people moving like this is much, much easier. But whenever you have slopes like this in Overwatch, Zen, if he steps back, moving like this. If he takes one step back, he's moving like this. Forward. To the side. Right? So if you have your crosshair, you are only comfortable hitting this shot and this shot. The other ones you never practice. Right? And so what you would end up doing is you would place your crosshair here and let Zen move around all he wants until he gets to here whenever you feel comfortable taking the point A to point B shot. Okay, that's what you do with your aim. So that's why it's really important to, I mean, you already have Kovacs, so practice it with the balls. It's really, really helpful.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to buy it again, I guess.
Oh, oof.
Give it a
But
shot.
there's also really, really good workshops, right?
Yeah.
There are workshops in Overwatch that will like send a Widow flying just like the ball in like an arc, and then you can just hit the headshot. The only difference is it's not as intense. You didn't seem to have as much of a issue as pressure as far as somebody shooting you and you overly flick or under flick because you're panicking. You didn't really seem to have that issue as much. And that's what you said. Kind of just feeling like your team's there, feeling like you have to perform.
Yeah.
I didn't really see that being as much of an issue, honestly. The biggest issue is just kind of your preparation for training your aim. Okay, we'll go to next VOD and I'll look more at your positioning and decision making, okay?
Yeah. Could you also try and take a look at how I play around the team? Since it is the scrim mod?
Oh, yeah. King's Row is pretty hard to see how you play around the team because it's a fairly bad Widow map, especially on second point. And then first point's the best for how you play around the team. And, you know, I called you out on a few out of position errors where you backed up whenever you had an advantage and you were pushed far forward on the first shot you took, but you weren't actually in a good position to get value. You were pretty exposed. But yeah, King's Row, there's not much like coaching I can do on that necessarily because it's so skinny. The sight lines are so small and straightforward.
Yeah, feel like Lijiang will be better.
Mm-hmm. Koth is really, really good for positioning for Widow. Let me know when you're in the VOD.
Oh shit. I was just buying the co-ops again. Just did it real quick. If you could just help me set it up afterward and reviewing, that would be great. If you are able to do that.
Tanner from Phase 2 sent me a screenshot of his. So I have like an idea of what good ones are, and I played around with them.
Okay. Yeah, you downloaded it for the first time not too long ago, didn't you?
Oh yeah, I've seen gameplay of it. I knew like the
Yeah.
concept of it and like why it was good and stuff, but I hadn't personally played around with it. So I knew it was good. I knew why it was good, but I didn't have personal experience with it. But now I probably have like 4 hours in it from the past like 3-4 days.
Nice.
Are you in the VOD?
Yeah.
Okay.
You go back Diva, go back Diva.
Oh, but I really like playing ball on this map.
What should we go?
That guy kind of sounds like Bart.
Faith, you can Lucio and then go Anna.
2, 1. Round.
Sarah, go Anna, nice.
Capture the objective.
What team is this?
What do you mean?
What's your team name?
Havoc.
Okay.
Havoc Esports.
You coming, main?
Just curious.
Yeah, this is Havoc Red if you want to know even more. Like the Havoc roster.
This is Havoc what?
Red. Like the diamond, the 3.0.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like 3.3k or something.
Yeah. Hey chat, is the VOD loud to you?
Goats?
Normal
I got full goats, full goats.
They have Anna goats, Anna goats.
Yeah, I will go outside.
My wallet froze. Hold up. Okay, very cool. Let's just go.
Honestly, Steelgrass, I think the VOD's just like stupid loud. He is a bit quiet though. I'll turn him up. Talk.
Hello.
It's a little bit better. Okay. You back?
Yeah, we're equal.
I got full goats, full goats.
So your team calls full goats, which the second you hear full goats, you immediately need to understand the only person you can kill is Zen and Lucio. Right? So you need to pick one of them two as soon as possible, otherwise you are completely useless as Widowmaker on your team against goats.
They have Anna goats, Anna goats.
So what that means is don't scope in where Ryan's shielding, immediately rotate to get backline positioning. Because Ryan's going to be protecting the front line. You, as fast as you can, need to get value on the back line. Assuming it's like goats. With like 2-2-2, if they're playing Ryan Zarya, if they're playing Bunker, the same thing applies. You have to get an angle as soon as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will go outside.
But then it's also important for your teammates to call correctly. Because if there's actually like a tracer and you push out aggressive positioning and look this way, then you're very easy to flank. So it's important for your teammates as well to not be like, oh, full goats. And you're like, oh, okay. Whenever they have only seen like 4 or 3 people and just assume it's full goats.
Tell us when you're going in.
The Diva's outside. They're playing on the
Big purple, giant purple, actually insane purple.
I'm jumping on Brig, I'm jumping on Brig. I thought you would here.
Nice shot on Lucio. That was good. But basically the entire time you were shooting at Diva and Zarya, you should have been doing this and shooting at the Lucios then.
Diva, I'm on Diva, I'm on Diva.
Okay, Ana, not Zen.
I'm coming through. Alright.
I'm on Anna. Get Anna, legit free.
Diva out here.
Break now.
Diva.
Sorry, I'm going to know.
Zarya sleeping?
I'm taking her 1, 2, 3.
I can see her head.
Yeah, I know.
For my co-host, the only one that's with me is kind of diva here.
One thing I left out, meant to say about last VOD with aiming, is in general, your crosshair placement for heads is pretty bad, right? You tend to aim low, and that's something Widowmakers with little experience, like practice, do a lot, is above, you miss. But below, at least you get a body shot, right? So you want to be safe, and you know that Zarya is somewhere between these two lines. Actually, we'll just pause it whenever she's actually... Okay. So you know Zarya is somewhere between here and here, right?
Yeah.
And right now, actually, your crosshair needs to be here, because that's her headshot. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're aiming a little bit low. You're going to miss the head. You'd hit her shoulder right now. But you tend, like in the King's Row VOD, you would aim here against the Zenyatta whenever his headshot's actually like up here. And so... give yourself the benefit of the doubt. If you, like, I'm telling you now, you always aim low. So whenever you're in situations like this and you have your crosshair, intentionally aim higher than you think. Intentionally, right? Even if you don't want to, force yourself to aim higher. And if you miss, now you know, okay, pull it down a little bit. Pull it down a little bit. And that will actually allow you to learn instead of playing safe. Because what do you learn whenever you place your crosshair for a body shot? Because you don't want to miss the person in general. Like, you're not getting any better if you're just going for body shots. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
in these situations, learn to hit the headshot. Learn the headshot position for each character. And that's, like, just something you have to kind of, like, learn. You know, Tracer is, like, right here. You would hit the headshot if this was a McCree or Soldier. Like, people there. Mercy as well. I think Ana, because of how she walks, she'd actually have her head here if she peeked. Because she, like, looks down when she walks. Ana's weird. But you get what I'm saying, right? This would also work for, like, Hanzo. So just, like, mid-tier characters, like, where your crosshairs would work. Zarya's a little bit taller, so you'd miss. Ryan, or, like, anyways.
Zarya sleeping?
I'm taking her 1, 2, 3.
Whenever they're resetting, start right here, because then you can see the top of the stairs and the ground. And whenever they turn the corner, you can get headshots there.
Yeah.
Where you're playing, your line of sight stops here, which means you completely miss out the value of here. So you want to start here, have that line of sight, and then once Ryan pushes up and shields here, then you relocate, reposition. And whenever you do reposition, I'd recommend taking this top left. That way you are playing this line of sight, right? Whenever your teammate is playing like here, okay? Instead, your teammate's playing here and you're playing here. So you're like not getting as much angling value. You know what I mean? So you, like, you make it more difficult on the Reinhardt because he's trying to shield, he's forced to shield like this instead of just shielding your team or just shielding you. You know, you force him to pick and play, like, low value with his shield. Because Ryan can only block from one angle.
I will go deep in and use my ulti if I'm not there, okay?
I want to make that story use a...
So right here, if you were on the left position, you'd be able to hit D.Va. And maybe Lucio, if Lucio's inside, which, yeah, I think he is. So you'd be able to get a headshot on Lucio right now. And not just because the wall, but because of defense matrix, right? If you could see Lucio, you might be able to shoot over the DM, but, like, D.Va's DM is blocking. If you were here, you could shoot behind it, over it. You could hit D.Va on this side, where she's not getting DM'd. So just, in general, always angle, because otherwise their resources get maximum value because they're blocking one direction.
Wait, did you... sorry, that's no personal.
You want me behind?
They're purple. Right.
It's much better to go for consecutive shots on D.Va than machine gun after one. So, just because you get so much more value per bullet with a sniper shot, even if it's like just a body shot. Okay? So you get this headshot. If you would have just stayed scoped in, by the time she gets to you, you have another shot. And then you machine gun the rest. because she's at point blank range.
You want me behind?
They're purple. Right purple.
Other one.
Right purple.
Need heals main, need heals main.
Lucio. Break.
On break.
They're sleeping on point.
Sorry, Anna.
Sorry.
Need heals main.
I need heal.
No. Lucio. Break.
On break.
Never go up here. This is their spawn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, don't ever do
Yo, they're
this.
gonna have craft.
You always want to get that angle that I was telling you about with them coming around the corner. That's always where the first angle you want to take us with.
They're gonna have craft here.
Going on
No
top of
one
her.
can
None
hide.
of them.
They're gonna nano shadow.
And you've already missed your opportunity because Ryan's already down.
Nano shadow here. I'm gonna go for something fucking crazy, dude. I'm gonna fuck this right off the map, dude.
Should I do an early kill on Anna?
This is a little bit off topic, but it's funny. I don't remember what team it was, but I had a Pharah who we played Pharah on this map, and our Pharah player would go here to shoot their spawn, and whenever they rotated to come take high ground, I told him he missed a really good opportunity to boop their whole team by firing a concussion on the stairs. And so every single scrim we had after that for the rest of the Open Division season, he always got at least one kill every time he peeked there, and they were rotating high ground. It's just the funniest thing, dude. And they would like either try it again and just focus D.Va DM, or they would just like not even try it. Like every single time, it was the greatest.
If you can, but you can't right now. You can't right now.
No, I can't.
No way you can.
Below that.
Okay, oh wait, shit.
See, why are you moving right now? You're just making it harder on yourself.
What are they waiting for?
They're waiting for the balls.
They're thinking I had a balls. Yo, bricks feeding.
You are aiming so much better. And I think honestly it's because you're focusing, you know?
Yeah.
Just like I said, you have to hard focus just on the headshots. Like all of those shots were really good. Look at how close you were to Briggs' head. That was, you mistimed it. That was
They
that was the only
fucking
thing.
grabbed me! You booked 2 of the bomb! Oh, it's fake. Fucking fake bomb. Fake your pog!
So think about it this way. If you only aim like this in scrims, that means the only real practice time you get is in scrims. So all of those shots that were really close to Brig that could have hit and killed her, the only time your brain gets the opportunity to learn how to correct those shots is in scrims. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So whenever you're doing everything else, it doesn't matter. So if you focus and train your focus, which helps you train your aim, then you'd be hitting those shots in scrims instead of missing them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're purple.
Sorry, no personal. Sorry, no bubbles.
Keep going, sorry. She has to die, she's high charge.
I'm dead.
You still have the flicking problem though, not being able to make small movements. If your crosshair's here, you wait for Sari to get farther away before you take the shot instead of just gently following with her and taking the shot. Yeah?
Yeah.
Big purple.
Go break, nice.
No.
Sorry.
Ryan sleeping on main. Leave him.
Yeah. Go D.Va now, go D.Va.
وريهم قوتك.
Leave a purple.
Run one main.
I'm on her.
Anna, no dive.
Yeah, I'm on her. Dead.
No D.Va.
I'm dead though. D.Va's one. Baby. Brick coming in. Nice, guys, good shit.
Nice.
Amateur.
Two quick fixes here.
That's
One,
our team coach.
Who's Anna?
Me.
In a certain amount of, I want you to play just a little bit more defensive. Right now we're kind of diving in a little bit too far. We're not.
Or don't go for that jump shot because they'll never be there in time for you to actually hit them.
Okay.
First fight, and then you get more value just taking a quicker position, right? Because if they have a Widow, you're racing to get line of sight first. So that grapple, which is guaranteed to get you no value unless you have a Pharah who jumped early, and if the Pharah did that, they're pretty dumb. Unless their Pharah did that, it's impossible for you to kill anybody.
Yeah, I'm gonna peel.
Who are they? I don't see anyone. Left side wing with goals. They goals left side.
The white goats.
Yeah.
Yeah, white goats.
They're
No,
close,
which-
they're close.
Zarya, is that D.Va mark? Monkey mark. Monkey mark.
Monkey goes. Monkey
Monkey
mark.
mark.
Monkey
Yeah,
dead. Nice.
Monkey
go.
dead.
Where'd you
Jumping
move?
in.
Get
I'm on Lucian. Lucian's dead. I'm on Ana.
I'm
Ana
with you.
nothing. Ana nothing. Ana
Big
dead.
mark. Big mark.
Bring no armor
Big mark.
back.
Yeah, I'm on Brig. I'm on Brig. Brig's dead. Get D.Va. D.Va. D.Va.
The angle you put was good. The first poison was not good because you threw it before the first fight. You have no idea what they have yet. What if they were running dive, they came this way, and the Sombra going this way? So then you grapple back, and then you have no poison to defend yourself from the Sombra that's pinching you. Yeah?
Yeah.
If you grapple back, and then you have like, oh, there's a Sombra inside, you can just throw poison to keep her there. Or, you know, so you don't even give yourself, if a situation like that occurred, you remove the opportunity to have that play because you just shoot it at the beginning of the fight, whenever more than likely they're going to see it and just destroy it.
Oh yeah, bro.
Fucking rolled and smoked.
I don't know how I booped down the story. I booped her from so weird angle.
Don't say that. You just say.
I was about to say, dude, please look and place your feet before you take this angle. I don't want you walking off the map.
It was all damage.
Yeah, all was not supposed to, you know.
Just a man.
Nice shot.
Nice go.
That was probably the first small flick you hit, or even went for. Did you see that? Because I was saying, like, look, this distance, whatever, like longer flicks is the only thing you ever go for. The Lucio was like this, and so normally, if you were to go for this shot, you would go for your normal shot because you have no muscle memory. Does that make sense? Okay? Because every shot you take is this distance. But you actually took a small flick and hit it beautifully. And I think it's the first small flick you ever really went for. Okay, so I'll slow it down for you. Just so you can see exactly what I mean. So Zarya, I think Zarya comes. You go for a big flick on Zarya. Oh wait, I gotta go back more. Here we go. My bad then. So yeah, you go for. Nah, you just missed. It's fine. But look at the small flick. Look at that. It was beautiful. At least you came and you made such a small correction. Watch. You. Right there. This is where you start your flick. And you just flick up. You see it? Boop.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Very proud of you for actually hitting, like, going for it. Just go for it. And it's like so hard for you and your brain to go for those shots because all you do is like game trainers. But that was good. That was good.
I think another reason I might not go for flicks is
go.
I've
Nice
never
shot. I'm
really
gonna go for a
flicked
quick
a lot
one.
when I
Yeah,
play.
back right now.
I just recently started
Dude, watch out for it. Don't
working
just-
on it.
Okay.
Sorry, Mark.
Like maybe I've been trying for 1 to 2 months at max.
I'm
Mhm.
close.
They're going white. They're going left side, left side, left side.
Well, you play like somebody who's never done anything but flick in his life.
Oh,
I have mech. I'm ready to DM you.
Because there's absolutely no crosshair movement except for your flicks. Even on the Lucio, no crosshair movement except for your flicks.
Okay, you're ready?
Okay.
maybe
When
I
you-
just think I track, but I flick instead.
What you wanna do is constantly kind of follow them with your crosshair, so that whenever you do have the ability to predict their head, you're making a much smaller flick and have an easier time hitting that shot.
Ready.
Monkey mark. Monkey
Monkey,
mark.
monkey.
He's marked. He's marked. He's marked.
I'm getting so much space. Sorry.
Sorry, nice. D.Va.
Monkey
Monkey one on point. No, monkey one. Go D.Va. Chase D.Va. I'm chasing her.
Get her. She's popper.
Nice,
Popper.
man.
Popper.
Leave.
Don't kill, don't kill, don't
Leave
kill.
her. Leave. Leave.
She will jump down. Yeah, I should have been. Too bad.
I have trends.
Okay, ultra. I have one.
They're gonna have Graph and Primal. Graph, Primal, Rally. They have everything here.
I would say this. You've played that angle the whole game. Time to reposition a little bit. Play here and down the middle. Do something else, because if they're on was like paying any attention, she could easily just sleep you. and then the team could rotate for free.
Yeah.
They have everything, yeah.
The brick is solo left side. No, okay. 2 people left side, 3 people? All left side.
Yeah, that's one.
I'm gonna
The monkey's
focus on
gonna go
the
really far in.
Nice.
Don't go into them, because they're just gonna grab us.
Nice. That was very. So like everybody, nice.
I'm gonna eat it.
We can go for Lucio here.
It was like just perfectly timed orbs with a body shot as well.
They're just backing out. Wait, we can kill Sarya?
Yeah, Sarya can die.
No.
Don't go.
They have armor packs, so I don't want to go in for it.
Nice.
Shot, Hope. Yeah, go monkey point. Help me point. He's gonna prime. He's gonna primal.
Pressing in.
Sarya, no bubbles.
Monkey dead. Break.
Get Zarya.
Sarya, which one Sarya? Let's kill this bitch.
I'm dead.
Okay. You win this?
No, come on, don't
Those
crash.
were real nice shots.
No, we can break. Why are we backing out? We can just win that shit.
Only Diva, Lucio.
Big problem. Remember how I mentioned reloading before?
Yeah.
You're grappling in with 6. And they've already captured point. I know you're trying to win like the 2v1, right? And it's okay for you to try. In this situation, it's 100% okay for you to try for this 2v1. But not with 6 bullets.
Diva mark.
Call.
I'm with you, Mo. We go through window.
Yeah, of course. I'm going window 3, 2, 1. I'm in this bit. Lucio.
Don't stop and scope. Your main priority needs to be getting an actual position where you're not point blank to a monkey. You got your grapple up, so just grapple back. And then that would allow your supports who are double pocketing you to go to, maybe, I'm not sure if that's your monkey or not because you colorblind settings, but like, it is, because this is the enemy monkey, but it will allow your supports to actually go help your team instead of just pocketing you and you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Which one, Lucio? Lucio dead in a second. Nice.
Instead, they end up leaving you because you didn't take that time to relocate. Now you're back to getting focused, and this time you don't have your supports.
Nice punch. Diva.
That monkey was smart. He would have killed you.
Break.
Break.
No Diva.
Anna's left
Get the
side.
monkey.
Monkey tagged the compound. Don't know where it's
I'm on him. Monkey's one.
Sarya is also one. Because Sarya first and a monkey.
Monkey's still one.
Go.
I'm going on Anna.
I'm on Lucian point. Need help with Lucian point.
Anna one left main.
She's not
Anna
one now.
delayed. Yeah,
She did
she doesn't have a fucking
Body
speed.
blocking this bitch.
Break.
One coming. I tried to push him. I missed.
He's purple. He's marked.
Yeah, monkey one. I'm going after.
Stressing in.
Bitch of a
Get the
ball.
monkey on point, guys. Monkey on point.
No, it's fucking
Balls the point.
You're playing a little bit far forward,
That's
right? Like, monkey can walk forward and contest you and then force out your grapple, and then he can just jump on you. You know, so you want to be playing always forcing them to use their jump to get onto you, and then you can grapple away. Like, that's always the distance you want to use. Genji has to dash to get to you. Doomfist has to punch to get to you. Monkey has to jump to get to you. You always want to have that space at a minimum. That way you're trading grapple for a jump. And then if they really want to kill you, then they have to invest 2 jumps. And then you drop off of high ground. And then they drop down, and by that time you have your another grapple. Then you grapple back up to high ground. Now they have to use a 3rd jump to get to you. And if that's Winston and Diva and Genji all doing that while you're getting mercy pocketed, then you're literally winning a 3v1. And the rest of your team gets to 5v3. You know? So, I mean, obviously they're not really focusing you and caring about you in this team fight. But if they were, you're in a position where you could easily be punished.
what I meant. Fucking ball.
Get ball.
That's exactly what I meant.
so annoying.
Nice ball. Nice Hope.
Diva.
Diva.
Break. He's on some point.
I'm on break.
Break. Marked.
Get her out of here.
Good job. So even in that whole scrim where your aim was a lot better, you were hitting a lot more shots. Almost every single shot you took, your crosshair was still, and you just took a flick, and there was no real tracking, and the biggest problem with that is your aim's very, 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 very one-sided. So whenever you get a little bit higher SR and widows are jump shotting you, you stand no chance to track the widow as she moves in midair to predict that her head's going to be here and hitting that shot. Whenever pro widows can consistently hit the shot around here on the arc, it takes them from here to predict the shot and hit it here, right? I'm more like hitting it down here, right? The easiest place to hit it is up here. That's where like most players are, right? You, if you were to hit the shot, you are shooting for here, right before they hit the ground. They're coming straight down, and you're just timing it as they fall. That's where you're shooting, okay? Which means if a widow is a grapple against you, she's 100% free because you're not even trying to kill her anywhere before she hits the ground. Right? Same goes for Pharahs, same goes for Valkyrie Mercies. Doomfists in midair. Right, whatever. Jumping monkeys, everything. It all requires that same style of aiming where you can track and then hit a target based off their direction. And so biggest homework I can prescribe you is workshops, specific workshops in Overwatch. Just the big thing is make sure it's like arcing targets, right? And not necessarily hit these targets flick, you know? And then Kovacs, all the different ball aim trainers are really, really strong. And any questions? Comments? Anything?
About the arc thing.
Yes.
I feel like maybe for some different targets, I can quickly aim differently on the arc. Like you pointed out with a widow. Like I kind of feel like mostly when say a widow hook shots, I aim when they're about the top of their hook. But I feel like that might be only on the widow.
Is that in Chateau whenever they grapple to high ground, they go straight up? If they grapple and they go straight up, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, if they go straight up, they might jump around the corner.
Yeah. And that's because you've built muscle memory for those specific movements, okay?
Yeah.
So for Widow, you know exactly like, oh, whenever my crosshair passes her arm, I know to shoot like exactly 0.01 milliseconds later because that will be a headshot. You've built up that muscle memory, like you just know, right? But that doesn't mean your aim is capable of hitting that shot. That means your muscle memory and your hand-eye coordination knows how to hit that shot every time, right? But if a Widow actually, instead of grappling straight up like that, grappled a little bit off and then had this arc, then all of a sudden all that practice on hitting this shot consistently is thrown away because it's not the same. You have to adjust your aim, right? I was referring to like if a Widow grapples completely diagonal and she arcs like this instead of just a straight up, straight down. But yes, because you mostly play against Widow and you know the Widow headshot hitbox and you know your crosshair placement for a Widowmaker if she peeks, yeah, but that's only against Widow. Last thing I had to say, sorry, left this part out, but you said 10-hour a week is extremely low. You need to be playing at least 4 hours a day with an hour of aim training and warm up, and then 3 hours really playing and focusing on the head, training your aim to hit those headshots, right? For your aim to actually grow into a place where you're like GM skill. right? To have OWL DM level skill, and that 4 hours a day needs to be closer to like 8.
If you're thinking about playing the game 10 hours a week, I play way more than that.
Well, yeah. You said 10 hours a day,
But,
or you said 2 hours a day,
dedicated
5 days a
practice.
week.
Dedicated to practice. Aim.
What else do you do besides practice aim?
Play the game.
Just for fun?
Yeah, pretty much.
Like Reinhardt and Quick Play?
Fuck off.
Right, you get what I'm saying, yeah? Like, what are you doing? If you want to improve your aim, you're concerned, like, oh, I'm inconsistent, and then you look at the time you spend and where you invest your practice time and the available time you have to play the game, you're going to get the results that you put in, you know? So I've told you exactly what you need to build some consistency in your aim, but even in the flicks that you should hit because of your Widow FFA, you still missed. You were double body shotting Widows consistently. There were some shots that you completely whiffed on Widow, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 hours a day, 5 days a week of set training time to build your aim is not very much. And my 4 to 8 hours was on specifically training aim, not just having fun.
Yeah.
And that did not include, by the way, like scrims. So, like, if you're scrimming, you get what I'm saying, basically.
Yeah.
Who is it? Saya player, whenever, I mean, obviously he has scrims, whatever, but, like, whenever he queues, he's starts queue and immediately goes to, like, aim trainers, and he's constantly going. And then he warms up, cools down before and after that. And then he'll even, like, take breaks from comp and just grind his aim. Taimu, I was watching his stream, he, like, didn't do as well as he wanted, and he felt like, or he was getting destroyed by another Widow. So, like, he was a little bit tilted. He wasn't happy with his aim, so he just stopped queuing comp, immediately went to Widow FFA to just kind of get it back to where he was comfortable, build a little bit of confidence, and then he went back into comp, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, these pro players, I'm just using him as an example, of course, know exactly what their aim needs and how to correct it in every situation, whatever is wrong. And they also put in all that practice time to get it to where they want to have it and to be happy with it. You have an idea or know where you want your aim to get. I've told you how to get it there, and it's up to you to do it. Yeah?
Yeah.
So any other questions, whatever? Sorry?
No, I'm just thinking real quick. Can't think of something straight off my head right now.
Okay, well, if you think of anything, I mean, you're more than okay to ask me. Otherwise, I'll send you Kovac trainers, what you need to do. And I will also send you some workshops, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching this on YouTube, I'll also link them below. And then make sure you subscribe. And then also, if you want to be coached, my Discord's also below. Yeah. So